The shooter's mentality. What happens when you miss a couple shots in a row? You start 0 for 6. You're in a hostile environment on the road and you're 0 for 3 from 3. You missed a couple easy ones. What happens? Are you the type of person, are you the type of man to think, it's not my day, I'm going to start passing the ball, I'm going to be passive, I'm not going to seek out my shot because I'm 0 for 6? That's going to make a difference in how I play and how I approach the game. If you have the shooter's mentality, you could start 0 for 6 and you think the next one's guaranteed to go in because the percentages add up. If you're a 38% three-point shooter and you're 0 for 3, well, the next one's very likely to go in percentage-wise, and the shooter who has the shooter's mentality never loses confidence. If he starts 0 for 6, he still wants the ball with 10 seconds to go. He thinks the next one's his shot, the next one's going in, not focusing on the 6 attempts in the pass. And why I bring this up is when I was an athlete myself, I did not have the shooter's mentality. I remember being on the road, we were at an away game, and I start maybe 0 for 9, maybe 0 for 9, and the crowd is just chirping at me like crazy, hostile environment, and it didn't end well. I remember asking to be subbed out. I asked to be subbed out, and that's just a sorry mindset. At the time, I had a sorry mindset. I I started 0 for 9, so I started thinking about it, and my play, if it, came from being 0 for 9. Instead of seeking out shots, being aggressive, being confident, playing free, playing, not overcomplicating it, because I was 0 for 9, I was overcomplicating it. I was thinking, I was in my head, I was thinking it's not my day. I had my head down. I wanted to be on the bench. I asked to be subbed out. And that's not something you want to do when you're in the face of battle and it's not going your way. It's not over. You have a great opportunity at your hands. It was a 2 point game or something like that, and I asked to be taken out. I didn't want the smoke. I didn't want the ball with 10 seconds to go, even though, if I was playing well, of course I would want the ball with 10 seconds to go. But that's the difference. It shouldn't matter if you're playing well or if it's the worst day of your life. The shooter who has the shooter's mentality, they don't care. The next one's going in. If you're 2 for 15 and you shoot 50% from the floor, the next one has to go in, right? That's how you got to think about it. The it just makes sense. It's not that it's not your day. It's that you got off to a slow start. The next three you shoot are going in. I don't know about you, but I would catch fire. I would go 4 for 4 to start the game in the first 5 minutes, and then sometimes never score again. I would go on these spurts where I would get really hot, but then the opposite happened where I would be really cold for a lot of the time. And it kind of, going starting 0 for 9 and being in that headspace, it's tough to operate. But it's the same with life. If you talk to 10 people a day, in the first two, maybe they're busy, maybe they just don't, maybe they do just not want to talk to you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You started 0 for 2, you got rejected 2 times. That's 2 reps. That's 2 reps. That's 2 shot attempts. You can't, if you're 0 for 2, sure, you missed 2 times, but you gave yourself 2 opportunities. As long as they weren't heavily contested, as long as they weren't selfish shots, as long as they were in the flow of things, then that's 2 reps. You gave yourself 2 opportunities to score. Regardless of what it is, business wise, relationship wise, whatever it is, whatever you're doing, no matter how you start, you always have to know the next one is going in just based off percentages. and based off the fact that the past doesn't matter. If you're 0 for 9 but you're not thinking about it, the next one is likely to go in. But if you're 0 for 9 and you're in your head about what's happened previously, then you're not going to make a good shot attempt. So if you have 2 bad days in a row, it's not the end of the world. If you cheat on your diet 2 days in a row, in the past I would think it's all over. It's all over, and then I would cheat 14 days in a row and gain 20 pounds of fat. Unbelievable. Because I thought it was all over. I didn't have the shooter's mentality. I thought because I messed up, because I missed 2 days in a row, that it was over. I had to put my head down. I couldn't shoot anymore. I couldn't still be in the game. And the shooter's mentality would say, okay, I've cheated 2 days in a row, but I, I'm a consistent player when it comes to shooting, or in this case, when it comes to staying on track of my diet. So 2 days in a row, but I'm a 90% staying on track of my diet, or the next 7 days are going to be golden. The next 8, 9 days are going to be golden. Just because I cheated 2 times, it's not over. It's not over at all. My percentages say I'm a 90%. So, it's just all mind games. If you can trick your mind into thinking that you're somebody who doesn't cheat, and that you cheated 2 days in a row, but your mind and your self-belief and your identity is somebody who doesn't cheat, then you have the shooter's mentality. You'll bounce right back and shoot again the next day and get right back on track. If you're an athlete, obviously this applies to you. If you start 0 for 5, who cares? Who cares? If you're one of the best players, if you can help your team, if you're hurting your team, of course, look to go a different route. Look to swing the rock. Look to set screens. Look to rebound. Look to defend. But if you're a valuable asset and you can help your team, don't let what previously happened get to you. The shooter's mentality, the next one's going in. It doesn't matter how many I miss in a row, the next one's going in, based on the work I've put in the past and based on my percentages. Eventually the percentages have to catch up to the baseline. If you're a 40% three-point shooter and you start 0 for 6, go hit 4 in a row, and then you're back on track. You started horribly, as I would think in the past, 0 for 6, oh my gosh, end of the world. But if you hit 4 in a row, which is doable, you're back at your percentage, 40%. You didn't let your head down. You didn't give up like I did in the away game when I told my coach to sub me out. I gave up. And so as long as you stay in the game, then you can't lose. As long as you stay in the game, you're at least learning. If I stayed in the game, if I never would have subbed myself out that game, and let's say we lost by 2 and I didn't score, maybe I missed 3 more shots, so it ended it ended poorly. If I stayed in the game, I learned how to face the crowd. I learned how to keep shooting the last 3 shots, even though I started 0 for 9. I learned how to not dictate my feelings and my thoughts on the outcome, and how to never get too high, never get too low. If you can develop the shooter's mentality in every aspect of your life, if you make 3 bad moves in a row in business, it doesn't matter. Your next one's going to be the one. Your next 3 are going to be the 3. If you approach 10 people and you start 0 for 6, 6 people were busy, or whatever they had going on, maybe they didn't want to talk to you. Who cares? Who cares? The shooter's mentality. Keep shooting. If you know you're valuable in some way, shape, or form, keep shooting, whatever that means for you. I'm obviously not just talking about basketball. Keep shooting. Keep making the moves. Don't take yourself out the game. You only can lose if you take yourself out the game, like I did in a hostile environment at an away game. And I took myself out the game. And in the game of life, if you're in and you're trying and you're making moves, you're in the game of life. if you're taking risks, you're in the game of life. And the only way you can lose is if you give up and say, let me go back to the the old way I used to do things. Let me revert back to that. Let me give up when I start 0 for 9. That's the only way you can lose. If you stay in the game of life, if you stay in the game when you're 0 for 9 and you have the shooter's mentality to keep shooting regardless of what happened before, and just you're level-headed, you're focused on the now, regardless if you're 9 for 9, it's easy to get super high on that. But if you're 9 for 9 and you're 0 for 9, it shouldn't be that much difference. Easier said than done, but if you can get to that point where if you're 9 for 9 and 0 for 9, you're still playing hard, you're still giving it your all, you're still focused on what's at hand and the next shot. The shooter's mentality, just focus on the next shot. Come on, baby. Come on, fellas.